Hey guys, I want to talk about transitioning to maintenance a little bit more. We discussed that yesterday, but in the context of sustainability. Because once you've made that transition into maintenance, you've got to have strategies to sustain your progress. And the great thing is, it doesn't include just dieting forever. So, just to kind of refresh a little bit, review what we talked about yesterday in terms of metabolic building, you know, I gave that example of one of my pro world champions and how even as a lightweight, somebody who was an ectomorph and had a hard time building muscle, because we took her through that metabolic building process incrementally, she was able to, look her best, more muscular, fuller, stronger, but without any regain in body fat. And so now her food intake levels were at normal, non-dieting levels, and she did not have to regain any body fat to get there. Now, I know there are some people in the industry who are talking about this topic quite a bit, and almost everybody who's talking about one thing, the pendulum swings in the other direction, and they want to counter that and discuss other aspects. And somebody has started discussing, well, maybe if we go too slow, we don't get that necessary jolt to the metabolism. So we should pound in enough food to raise the body fat level up to get out of that dieting mode. Then we can transition into some kind of a more stable strategy. And I just frankly disagree, because I don't think you have to necessarily gain body fat on purpose. It's going to happen gradually, and it should happen a little bit if you're that extremely lean. So if you were a pro bodybuilder, as my client was, that could be a factor. But in that case, look what happened. She was able to reach those levels within 4 to 6 weeks without any body fat gain. Now, I'm going to venture to say most people watching this, if you're not an extreme physique athlete, you may not be at those really low body fat levels, and so any body fat you would regain would be unwanted. If that's your position, then we definitely don't want that anyway. We don't want to regain any body fat. So you can go through that incremental building. I'll use another client example of Dr. Corey Probst, the vice president of the Diet Doc, our wellness director, who you guys will get to know through other videos and through articles on our website. She was a phenomenal physique athlete. She earned pro status in bodybuilding, fit body, and figure. 3 different divisions, and she did extremely well as a pro in all of them. And she's kind of a mesomorph. She's just got an incredible amount of muscle, yet at the same time, to get ultra lean to do well in competition like that, she has to grind it out and lose weight just as hard as anybody else. It takes dropping calories and carbs to a level that's not as normal or happy as you would want to be. Matter of fact, in some stages of dieting, I know she's been at 100 grams of carbs or even 75, maybe even cycling in almost a ketogenic level of carb intake for short durations or cycling carbs throughout the week. And to go against your natural evolutionary biochemistry to get that lean when you're in that starvation mode, it is not always fun. I think most of you watching this would not be in that category. You're going to get down to a healthy lean level that's not that extreme, but just for the sake of example, there were times when we had gotten Corey to the level of leanness she needed to win a contest, and then of course the contest, we want to do that before the show so that we had a chance to build her metabolism back up, build some fullness back in to her dieting strategy. And there were some times during the week of the show that her carbs were all the way up to 350, 400 grams a day. And this is a 105, 110 pound female eating 400 grams of carbs a day and not regaining body fat. And that's just how much you can build your metabolism back up if you're being very strategic and incremental. Now, that is a little bit of a false, almost fantasy that you could stay there forever, because then your metabolism, is at that level, and your training level, things like that, are going to reduce a little bit because she's not in that competition prep mode. But that shows you how dynamic the metabolism can be. So once you guys have reached that point where you've finished your diet, you've reached your goals, now you've gone through that incremental metabolic transition, metabolic building phase, you're going to need some strategies for maintenance. And I'm going to break this up into two sections. This section, and then tomorrow we're gonna hit on it just a little bit more. But I want to give you a couple strategies now as you transition into maintenance, whether it's now or 6 months from now or a year from now. When you hit your goal and you've transitioned successfully to maintenance, are you going to just sit back and say, okay, I'm done, I'm just going to eat whatever I want now? I don't think that's going to be a good strategy for you. But will you also continue to just track your food incessantly and try and be perfect all the time? I hope that extreme is also not what you plan to do. Because now that your food levels are up to a maintenance level, you have some flexibility options. You can build in some different types of flexibility. One of the things I like to do, because I'm still doing this for my health, right? I'm not just a performance athlete, or I don't just care necessarily about what I look like all the time. That's not my biggest goal. But part of my goal aspects include just health. You know, I want to be healthy, lean, active, and so forth. And so I'm not going to just stop eating well. You know, quality food is still quality food. So if during the parts of my day and the parts of my week where I can employ good nutritional strategies and it's not really a burden to me, then I'm just going to do that. You know, if you look at what I've eaten, for example, today, you know, from breakfast and lunch and a pre-workout snack and a post-workout snack, it's been all really clean, healthy food and the amounts I wanted, just as if I was dieting. Then I might go home and have a little bit bigger dinner, or that might be where, you know, I have even a late night snack. And so I've embedded into my day a place where I can have some moderate increases of maybe even discretionary food. You know, it could be some tortilla chips on the couch watching TV. But I've factored that into my day. Or I could do that all week long so that on the weekends I have more of a relaxed meal a couple times, or just, you know, a little bit more of an indulgence. So if we're keeping our food intake, you know, 80, 85, 90% healthy, maybe even almost at a dieting level, we've naturally built in some room for flexibility. I think that's an incredibly good strategy so that you're planning some flexibility. Another thing you could do is just try and stay across the board very even. Just say, well, this is how much food I need per day, and I'm just going to map it out, and I'm not going to have very many fluctuations. I know people who do that because they just simply feel better physically. They just don't like to have ups and downs, or they are so committed to their health that they're now eating higher amounts of food, but it's still going to be all very good food. They're almost very self-righteous when it comes to food intake. And, you know, oh, I wouldn't put that in my body. And, you know, that's okay, but it's not me. I'm still going to have ice cream and pizza and stuff like that. And so I'm just going to make some room for it. So I think part of your maintenance strategy, part of those goals, have to almost be multi-layered. So you're trying to keep kind of an edge, you know, to your dieting level for some days of the week. Your food intake is very, very quality. But then you can still look for ways to be healthy and still be convenient. You know, again, if I'm going to a sandwich shop, I'm going to, you know, avoid things like mayonnaise and cheese and all that and get a little bit more stripped down thing, because to me it tastes just as good, and I don't want to spend all those calories on food that I could save for something that was even better. You know, maybe something more homemade or at a better restaurant or so forth. So I'm picking my places, in other words. I'm looking for ways where I want to save some of those calories for better social engagements and just better food sources. And other places I'm saying, you know, this is not worth it, I'm not going to. So you still have to have a mindset of management, not extreme control and obsessiveness about your diet, but just objectively managing the process. Even though you're no longer losing weight, you've got a certain amount of calories your body is going to use per day, per week, and you got to operate within that truth. So that's what I would do, guys. Just look at it as a multifaceted approach, and then you can decide how much emphasis to put on each one. But tomorrow we're going to wrap this little segment up, and we're going to end up having to say goodbye because we're coming to the end of this 30-day coaching block, which I've had a lot of fun doing. So come back tomorrow, guys, and we're going to be finishing strong.